The first tip that I'll be going over is that when you are trying to ash rush into a barricade, don't just shoot your ash charge in the middle of the barricade. Instead, put it in one of the corners of the barricade. That way, when you sprint in, you don't take any damage from your ash charge. Now, that was just one out of 137 different tips that I'll be going over in today's video. The second of which is actually for castle. My tip with castle is if you want to make it to where you can surprise people on the other side of a barricade, all you have to do is prep the castle barricade. Usually, it takes about 9 brick to break a castle barricade. So if you melee it 8 times instead of 9, then the second you want to surprise somebody who's maybe planting on the other side of a doorway, you can just hit it once. There are better ways to use castle barricades, as he mainly is used for cutting off angles, but I do like this way sometimes. Speaking of barricade operators, let's go over this next tip with Azami. If you want to make any pixel angles in the game with Azami, all you have to do is go to a reinforced wall, hug the very left side of it, and look as far down as you possibly can. Then throw your knife and look up immediately. That way your gun blocks the Azami from making a full circle. From here, throw your next kunai at the top of this red bar on the reinforcement. And from there, when you prone, you get an angle just like this you can use to watch anywhere you want to. This works on any reinforcement, on any wall, on any single map. Something else that works on every single map is bouncing Valkyrie cameras. If you want to get a Valkyrie camera in a high place that you normally wouldn't be able to throw it to, all you have to do is put a Valkyrie camera on a surface and bounce another Valkyrie camera off of that first one, which will result in that Valkyrie camera being on top of the surface, allowing you to also pick up the other one. Now, as you can see, it's on top of the wall I wanted it to be on, while still being able to watch whatever I wanted it to watch. Moving into the attack though, let's talk about this trick with RAM. If you want to be able to create a thermite-sized breach in a soft wall with RAM, all you have to do is shotgun open a hole like this. Then throw your RAM device in it, like that, and activate your RAM device. This will breach open the entire wall for you. An even more necessary tip is shooting glass on windows in the prep phase. When you put 5 bullets into a window in different spots, it will actually take the glass off that window without breaking any part of the barricade at all. You do this so that you could hear people repelled on the window a lot easier, so that you know when they're on the window and when they're getting off. Now, just like you should destroy glass on barricades, you should also be putting punch holes on reinforcements. When you punch reinforcements or put shotgun holes through them, that makes it to where when the wall is reinforced, you'll be able to hear people putting hard breach utility like thermites or aces on the wall a little bit louder. If you're arcade tricking or bandit tricking, that's really helpful because you need to know exactly which wall to place your bandit on so you don't get it wrong and accidentally open the entire wall. But if you want to hear your game, you need to go to your audio settings. Make sure that when you're playing the game, you have on night mode, especially if you're running earbuds. If you're on headsets, hi-fi is usually preferred, but it does make explosions a bit louder, which can cover footsteps in some scenarios. It's a pick your own poison kind of thing, but I personally like to run hi-fi. Another setting you need to change is when your aspect ratio is on automatic. When your aspect ratio is on automatic, it usually displays at about 16:9 aspect ratio. This aspect ratio is really bad, and in this game, you want to have wide stretched res. For most people, that would look like 4:3. The issue with 4:3 is that people appear to move faster, which is especially hindering to you when you're playing online and there's ping involved, which is why most pro players will run 4:3 on LAN tournaments, but they'll run 16:10 when they're playing ranked, like the majority of you should. 16:10 allows you to still be stretched and get the benefits from it, while also not making your game look like crap and making it to where you don't have to react to super fast people. Now, my next tip is actually for Flores. If you're Flores droning an opponent, chances are they're going to try to shoot that Flores drone. Meaning that if you shoot a Flores drone in a building like this and get off of it, your Flores drone will continue rolling, allowing you to get off of your Flores drone and swing people who are actually shooting at your drone. Speaking of Flores tips, did you know that Flores drones can jump over punch holes? To explain this, I'm going to put a few punch holes in this soft wall just like this. If I wanted to, let's say, put a Flores drone and explode this wall, but there's no other way to do it, well, I can actually climb up punch holes. So if I get on my Flores drone, as you can see, when I jump up, it gets caught on the punch hole. I can jump it again, and then jump it one more time, and explode it, allowing me to get that wall open all the way from down here. Speaking of droning tips, one thing that I think is pretty highly underutilized is turning your drone last second to actually extend your ability to land on a surface. For example, if I were on this white van and I wanted to jump up on top of that ledge right there, when I jump and try to do it, sometimes I'll just completely miss. But if you do it and then turn your drone to the right last second, your wheel will actually get caught on the ledge, allowing you to get more angles than you previously would be able to. But let's bring you back to Courtyard for a second, because there's a cool spawn peek you can actually do from Courtyard. If you use an impact grenade on this wall right here, and then you come into blue bar and open up this blue bar window. Doing those two things allows you to get on this couch here, and then if you lean to the left while hugging this wall, you can actually kill anybody coming through the ruin spawn under this archway. When you shoot a bullet around right here, that is usually head level to where anybody will be running across. People sprint across here really fast though, so I would honestly just pre-fire this and you might get a free kill. An even better defensive trick that you can do though is with a nitro cell. If you ever put your nitro cell someplace and then you realize no one's there and you want to get it back, but now it's just too late, all you have to do is actually shoot the soft floor around the nitro cell like this, and if you destroy that soft floor, your nitro cell will come falling down and you can pick it up. One thing you should also be utilizing is cutoff drones. Let's say I wanted to push into sunrise here. It would take me a lot of time to drone each and every single individual room, but if you had a drone in here from the prep phase already that you could use, all you have to do is simply get on this camera. Oh, okay, no one's here. Let me walk in. And that took way less time. One thing cutoff drones allow you to do really well is take space. And you should be taking space and finding gaps and taking them whenever you can. For example, if I know that all of Aqua and luggage are clear, there's no reason for me to not take that space. Anytime that there's rooms that are available for you to take, you need to take them and do so very quickly. Having more map control is always going to be better than having less map control. The more map control you have, the faster and more time you have to be able to apply pressure to the site and work a take you want to work. Now, taking space quickly is something that you can do if your teammates are rushing, which brings me to my next tip. If your teammates are rushing or you have one Ash main that's just running into the building and he's being really stupid, you actually just baiting him and trying to refrag him the entire time will net you a lot of free kills. Instead of him just running in and dying like he's probably going to do, at least you can kill the person who killed him to even out the man count and at least make the game a little bit more fair. Something else that can get you free kills is not crouch walking anywhere that you go to. At no point should you be crouch walking up to anything, or especially if you're on a flank. You might think that crouch walking actually makes less noise, but it actually makes more noise than just alt walking. Alt walking at least keeps you at head level so that if you ever need to stop alt walking to swing, you can swing faster than if you were to swing while crouched. Crouch swinging actually makes it to where you swing slower, and it makes noise every time you crouch, making it to where crouch walking is really just never a good idea. Moving it back to the site though, a tip that you need if you're setting up the site is to make rotates before you do anything else. If I'm running anybody with a shotgun and I need to set up site, whether it be making rotates, making head holes, destroying dressers, it doesn't matter. The first thing I need to destroy is the rotates. The reason you want to do this is because when you make rotations, it allows your defenders who are also setting up site to go through the site and around the site easier because they have more points of access to do so. So you're essentially making site setup faster when you make rotates first. Now, my next tip is less about actual practical game knowledge and more about your mindset, and that is that you need to have confidence. A lot of the times people will not swing or they'll drag out fights longer than they need to be because they don't have the confidence that when they swing, they're going to win the gunfight. When you're scared of people shooting you back, you play a lot more passively than you need to be in order to win rounds. Chances are your enemy is just as scared as you are, so use that to your advantage and think that you're the better player so you're less passive. Something else that can give you confidence when you're playing Clubhouse is opening up this plat wall when they're playing CC. If you want to do this, there's a very easy way you can do it with Ash. All you have to do is pro next to this double barricade, shoot out a portion of this barricade, and Ash right on that soft wall, just like this. That is below where anybody is bandit tricking or arcade tricking, making it to where they can't actually do that, and you'll get all of the electronic utility necessary so that your hard breacher can get the wall open. Something else you should be doing is not peeking the same angle twice. So if I'm trying to clear any of these angles and I eventually see somebody, but I know that they saw me too, it doesn't make sense for me to re-swing at the same angle that I was just swinging because then they're just going to pre-fire me once they see my head. So instead, when I quick peek and I see that they see me, I'm gonna crouch and then peek again so that they aim above my head and shoot instead of actually hitting me in the head. Something else in the game that can show you what to do is the timer at the top of your screen. A good rule of thumb if you don't know what to do is that your first minute of the round should be you trying to get into the building as an attacker, and as the first minute and a half as a defender, that is your time to roam and prevent them from actually getting to the site. After a minute and a half, you can go back to site, and as an attacker, you should be making vert at a minute and a half and executing on the site once the time is under a minute. So if you don't know what to do, there's a good rule of thumb. Moving it to the attack though, let's talk about this next tip that has to do with something called ghost pressure. Ghost pressure is essentially opening up angles that you're not going to use just to scare defenders into thinking that you're going to use it. Let's say, for example, I'm attacking the top floor of cafe. If I know there's a guy playing in piano, which, you know, there probably is going to be, then when I get on the roof, opening up this window and then getting off is a great idea, because then when I start working these hatches, they're still going to be looking at that window, and if they do, they're going to back up and give free space, or at least be a little bit more paranoid when we attack where we're actually going to attack. Speaking of tips you can use on cafe, let's talk about this next tip with buck. A lot of people don't realize, but as buck, you can actually buck through multiple different layers of floor in order to get even crazier angles on the site that you normally wouldn't have been able to do with any other operator. You can buck through multiple floors, but you're also able to go through floors and certain walls to get angles on people onto other places that you also couldn't get had you not done that. So make sure that you try and get creative with buck as much as possible to get more insane angles. Another thing you should do to get better is watching yourself in match replay. When you watch yourself in match replay, you notice mistakes that you make when you're watching yourself, allowing you to become even better at a faster rate when you don't want to play the game but still want to get better in the process. Speaking of watching things though, this next tip is in the same vein, because you also need to be watching content creators like myself in order to get better. A lot of the times just watching somebody play can make you better because you notice they do things that you don't that gets them a lot of value, or you notice certain tips like in this video that you can use in your games to get more value yourself. Going back to tips about vertical though, if you ever wonder like where floor beams are so that you don't hit these like random metal beams, all you have to realize is that metal beams go the opposite way that wooden beams go. So if these wooden beams are going up to down, I know the metal beams are going to go left to right, just like this. As you can see, the metal's left to right, but the wood is up to down. The same logic applies over here. If I know the wood is left to right, I know the metal beams are up and down. Let me sledge it. Would you look at that? That's how that works. Now, something you can utilize whether you're on attack or defense is giving exact comms. Saying somebody's in sight or on my dead body is not a good comm. A lot of the times when I'm pushing sight as an attacker, somebody will die and say that guy's on sight, which doesn't help me at all. Obviously, the dude's on site. You just died to that guy. But I want to know which side he's on, what room he's in, what corner he's in. That's a great call out to give, and sometimes it gets me killed when my dumb teammates don't tell me the exact call out. Something else that can get you killed is putting deployable shield on doorways just like this. You never want to put shields on doorways because it makes it to where if you want to rotate through the site, you have to vault over the shield, which makes a lot of noise and gets you stuck in an animation that can get you killed. Instead, all you have to do is back up your shield off of the doorway just a little bit like this, which gets you the same amount of effect of being able to use the shield while also making it to where you can rotate when you need to, and it makes it to where you can put ADSs on the other side of the wall that protect your shield but can't get shot by enemies. Now, my next tip is actually with Grim. You should be using Grimbees less for information to drone out a room like this, and more as area denial, kind of like a Capitao like this. If I want to go for a plant, having Grimbees right here is great because it tells me if anybody is about to swing me, so then I know when to get off the actual plant to then swing and go for the kill, or if I can stick the plant and not have to worry about it at all. Moving it back to the defense though, I want to show you a cool zombie angle you can use to prevent anybody from getting on these windows on bang. All you have to do is look at the chandelier post just like this, and then throw your zombie barricade. The zombie will land and block off that window completely. However, if you go to the second window, they can still see you. All you have to do is throw a second zombie barricade on it like this, and that completely solves the problem. Speaking of good operators, let's talk about the thermite. Something that's pretty underutilized about thermite is using the explosion radius to open up other exterior walls you might have not meant to. So if I use the thermite, obviously I'm trying to explode this wall, right? But because the explosion radius of thermite is so big, when I try to explode this wall, I'm also going to explode this wall. So if these walls are ever electrified, you can just thermite this soft wall and easily get it without any electricity being able to kill your thermite breach. Speaking of hard breachers, let's talk about my next game sense tip, which is that if you're playing support, especially a hard breach, you should never be the first into a map. You should always be trying to be behind your entry fraggers, behind your shields, or being the person to drone them in instead of following them physically. Putting yourself at risk or making it to where you're not checking spawn peaks before your teammates are makes it to where you'll die a lot more than you should be. Speaking of breachers, let's talk about a tip for Buck. Now, Buck specializes obviously in soft breaching, and you need to use this to Buck's advantage. If you're ever playing a map with a lot of soft destruction, you should be aiming to open up as much of the walls as possible and opening up new lines of sight you never thought were even possible. You don't necessarily have to use all of the angles that you're creating, but just opening them in general allows you to get a lot of angles onto anybody who doesn't know these angles are there, getting you a lot of free kills in the process to people who are very unsuspecting. More angles on a map is only going to be attacker sided, especially if you're the ones that made them and the defenders don't know they're there. So as Buck, you should be looking to honestly run out of his ammo most of the time that you play him. Something else that can get you a lot of free kills though is making sure that you're warmed up every single time that you play. It's as quick as queuing the game, but going into the shooting range as you queue just to make sure that you're at least a little fresh. I would do it 1 round on the 1x scope, 1 round on the 2.5, and you should be fine. If you want an actual warm-up though, go into endless drill, use both of the scopes, then run an arcade. And while you're queuing for said arcade, use the shooting range, and after about 1 or 2 arcades, you should be fine. Something else that can get you a lot of free kills is not solo queuing. When you solo queue, you're essentially just putting yourself at an unnecessary disadvantage. I know sometimes it can be hard to find teammates, especially if you're a content creator, but when you solo queue, there's less coordination on your team, there's less stratting, there's less comms, and when you're with a 5 stack, there's more of everything I just talked about. Another tip that you need for your mindset is making sure that you have a mission-based mindset. Having a mission-based mindset essentially makes it to where you're never just sitting around doing nothing. As an attacker, your mission should always be to plant the bomb. So if you're ever at a doubt as to what it is you need to be doing, make sure that what you're doing makes it to where planting the bomb is easier. If you're a support player and you don't know what to do, maybe you can't get the wall open, well, your mission is to get the bomb down. So making sure that your entries get into sight is an easy way to do that, so just drone in your entries, right? So if you ever have a puzzle that needs to be solved as to what it is you need to do something that makes it to where you can plant easier. That is always the best case scenario of what you need to be doing so that you're never just sitting doing nothing. Another mindset tip that you need is to make sure that you're not roaming to get kills. Your job as a roamer is to waste time. If you can waste a good 1.5 to 2 minutes of the attacker's time, they only get 1 minute to attack the bomb site, which is not a lot of time, especially with the amount of utility they have to use and the amount of kills that they have to get. If you were to get 1 kill on the roam and die immediately, they would still have 4 players and 3 minutes left to be able to do anything they'd want to do, which is still great for them. So make sure you're roaming to waste time and not to get kills. Something else you should be doing is getting on cameras at the start of every single round. When you're a defender, especially if you're anchoring, there's not much you can really do other than just sit around and wait. And like I said, you never really want to be doing that. So make sure you get on cameras at the start of the round. That way you know where they're pushing and you can react accordingly. The same exact thing can be said for attack. When you don't know what else to do, the best thing you can do is to set up flank cameras and watch them. If you know your teammates are getting walls open, they're working a deployable shield, they're pushing the bomb site, they're getting kills, and you actually have nothing that you can be doing that wouldn't otherwise be done by another teammate, just watch flank cameras, especially if you have no dead teammates that are watching them for you. Now, I know you should be worried about flanks, but something you shouldn't be worried about is your statistics. Having a low KD is fine if your rank is high. It is okay to be a champion with a 0.8 KD. I promise you, that is fine. It is better than being a copper with a 1.2. Your KD really does not matter. The only stat that actually matters is your win-loss if you're trying to get a high rank. Moving on from just mindset tips, I want to give you a cool strat for the top floor of Cafe with mutes. If you have the red walls reinforced and you want a mute jammer that you can put on the wall that can't be shot from the window, all you have to do is come all the way to the left and place your mute jammer vertically like this, and they will not be able to shoot that from the window, but this will cover the entire left side of the wall. If you want the right side of the wall covered, all you have to do is come to this drone hole and put it on the very far right next to the wall here, and now both mute jammers cover the walls and they can't shoot it from the window. This mute jammer also covers your hallway, but only about halfway, which is why you want another mute jammer on the right side of this cigar box here. Now they can't send a drone through this hallway, and if you don't want them to be able to send a drone behind you through this hallway, just put a mute jammer like this. With all of these mute jammers combined, you can sit and put a shotgun hole just like this, and if anybody drops the hatch, if you ADS, you will one-shot anybody, yes, even 3 armors if you hit the body. You also have a bunch of cover and they can't drone you, making this strat get you at least 1 free kill every single round. Just like you should be holding cigar box on Cafe, you also should be holding trophy on Oregon. A great strat to do is to bring anybody with a deployable shield and put it in trophy just like this. When you put a deployable shield in trophy, you can peek off of it and kill anybody on the master balcony from both sides of the shield, while still allowing you to play off the shield and be safe. You can also bring thorn mines, proximity alarms on Wamai, or a nitro cell on Warden to get free kills, or just to use for information, making this one of the best strats you can do for the top floor of Oregon. Speaking of trap operators, something that you really need to start doing is placing legion mines lower on staircases. If a legion mine is super high on the staircase right here, when an attacker does shoot or ends up hitting that legion mine, you'll have about half a second to react before their crosshair is already on your head. So you need to make sure that your legion mines are actually lower on the staircase. That way you have more time to be able to react to them being there, so you don't just immediately get your head taken off. Moving it back to the attack though, I need to talk about this droning tip. If you're ever droning into the building, over droning is a huge problem. Let's say I drone in from garage and I want to drone my bottom main stairs to rush down the basement. One thing that can happen is if I keep droning on and on and on, somebody in meeting could have already gone in and into garage right about here while I was on my drone. So make sure that when you're droning, you only drone about 2 to 3 rooms ahead of you. That way you can't miss drone people, and then once you've taken the space you've already droned, then get back on your drone and then start re-droning. Okay, I know this is clear. I'm gonna come in like this, and now I'm gonna re-drone. That way that you're not accidentally letting people slip by, but you're still droning at the same pace. Something else that you should be doing on attack is if you know that you and your team are more coordinated and better than the enemy team, is that you should be rushing every single round. Dealing with a rush requires serious coordination and communication between you and your team. So if you know that the enemy team is uncoordinated, especially compared to yours, you rushing is a great idea 9 times out of 10. Something else that can win you a lot of rounds is taking advantage of Peeker's advantage. Peeker's advantage essentially says that if you peek somebody, they will have less reaction time than you will because you're peeking off of information, allowing you to get easier kills and them to have harder gunfights. Anytime that there's the option of letting them peek you versus you peeking them, you should be the one peeking so that you don't have to rely on reaction time and they are the ones in the delay. Really quickly though, I want to bring it back to Legion because there is one thing I want to talk about. Legion mines, as you can see, are no longer invisible. I see way too often people just throwing Legion mines indoors like that, and that makes no sense. You're not going to get any Legion trap kills or damage with that at all. Because Legion mines are no longer invisible, Ubisoft essentially compromised by making them have a large area of effect around the Legion mine instead of you having to directly hit it to activate it. Meaning that you can put Legion mines on the side of doorways just like that, where they're hidden, and if people walk through the doorway, even if they're hugging the right side of it, they're still going to hit that Legion mine every single time. Something else that you need to start doing on defense is managing your aggression depending on the man count. So if you're in a 2v4, a lot of the times, if the enemy team is coordinated, they're just going to flood the site all at once, which makes it to where you're gonna lose because you can't take on 4 people as 1 person, or even 2 people. However, if you were to get aggressive before you gave them the time to flood the site and get a free kill or 2, evening out that man count to a 2v2, it'd be a lot harder for them to execute onto the site with the exact amount of people that you have on your team. So if you're ever down in man count, get aggressive, try to get a pick. If you're up in man count, be passive because there's really nothing that you have to do due to the fact that they're naturally just at a disadvantage. Another tip that you absolutely need for your ranked games is making sure that you're shooting hatches diagonally to one-shot them. Sometimes shotgunning hatches just doesn't one-shot them for some reason, but if you were to shoot it from diagonal angles like this, it is always going to one-shot the hatch. Another cool tip about the defense is if you're ever playing Echo, you can jump your cameras up outside and they gain some serious height if you want some information. So if I want to see if anyone's on the roof, all I have to do is drive outside and hop up like this and check. It's really nice to do. Now in this video, I've shown you a bunch of solo Q strats like the mute one, and I want to show you one more that's even more lethal than any one that I've talked about in this video, and it actually has to do with Thorn. Now what sucks about attacking K9 when you're going to attack Chalet is that when you're up here and you rappel in or you come up the ladder, you're at the whims of anybody who's on this doorway, and if you want to escape, you have to do so very cautiously. To make things harder, all a Thorn player really has to do is put Thorn traps all around the K9 balcony just like this. That way if anybody hops in, they either have to stand here and die to your thorn traps, or when you as a thorn player run out and start shooting them, they'll die to that. Either way, they're going to die no matter what, and you have a 100% chance of getting a kill here. If you want a cool attacking strat for Chalet though, then make sure you rappel up to this mud window here. If you open up the bathroom window, you can see all the way into solar for anybody setting up site, and if you do it early enough, a lot of the times it can actually net you a free kill. Bringing it back to the defense though, I have a really specific tip that has to do with you holding angles. A lot of people will hold angles angles super tight like pixel peaks, and because people are running across the angle, you don't have time to react to it and you'll just miss your shot. So when you're holding angles, give yourself a bit of room, just like this, so that when they do peak, you can still hit the shot, but you're able to swing out and actually kill people and react to them, whereas if you had a tight pixel, you wouldn't have been able to do that. Speaking of defensive tips, one thing that you really need to start doing is using every single reinforcement on the board. There are some times on some sites, especially like Canal, when people just don't know what to reinforce, there will be like 5 or 6 reinforcements left over. I actually see this the most on the trophy statue bomb site on Villa. You need to be using every single reinforcement. There's no reason not to. There's no reason to have a wall that they're able to shoot you from if they get a drone ping onto you. You might as well just reinforce walls, even if you don't know if it's going to do anything, just reinforce it. Unless it's on site, you know, when they have specific site set up for it. But if there's like 3 extra reinforcements and the whole site set up, go use them on their own. Why not? You're not really going to do anything until 30 seconds when they're actually at the building anyways. You might as well just reinforce a few walls for fun. Something else on the defense you should really start considering doing is making more of your rotates vaultable if you know that they have shields. As a shield, having to vault through rotates really sucks because it locks you in an animation and exposes you from the side completely, allowing people to just gun you down. So if you know they're going to run shield on the defense, just start making more of your rotates in a vaultable way. That way they have to vault more often and you can get more free easy damage. Moving it back to the attack though, I want to talk about a tip that has to do with switching your secondaries. If you're ever in a gunfight and you're spamming past a doorway like this and they hear you stop shooting, if they're a good player, they're going to swing you because they're going to think that you're reloading. So anytime that you mag dump and you're out of ammo, instead of reloading, immediately switch to your secondary and start backing up and pre-firing. And then once you have cover again, reload your primary weapon immediately. That way you're never at a disadvantage and you never just don't have a gun out with 0 ammo in it and you get swung, and you're at least able to defend yourself while you go reload that primary weapon. Something else you should never do in a gunfight if you know you're going to get swung by somebody is proning. Proning, as you can hear, makes a lot of noise. So if I'm an attacker and I'm trying to swing this dude and I hear this noise, I know all I have to do is aim down and start pre-firing, and because he's prone, he can't move. So if I'm pre-firing, I'm just going to murk that dude 9 times out of 10. So never, when you're in a gunfight and someone's close to you, should you ever prone unless you know they're swinging you at the exact time you're proning. Something else that you should be doing is going into your settings and turning on visible throw trajectory in your settings. This makes it to where if you need to get an exact nitro cell onto a very specific point, but you don't know if you're able to do it, all you have to do is hold out your nitro cell and it'll show you exactly where it's going to land, so you know when and how to make that throw happen. Next up, let's talk about this trick with Azami. You might not know this, but if you fall next to a barricade, it just completely breaks. You can use this to your advantage though. If you have a barricade covering a window like this, any attacker is going to expect you to melee it 3 times and then run out of it. They'll never have the reaction time or expect you. They'll never expect or have the reaction time to expect the barricade just breaking immediately and then you running out and killing them. Another cool zombie trick that you can use is if you come into the kids room right here, put in a zombie barricade at the bottom left corner of this leg of the bunk, just like this. And then you should get a vault prompt to actually hop in the bunk right here, which allows you to be inside the bunk. You can even close yourself off just like this. And now you can sit here and watch the rotate into sight. Moving it back to the attack though, whenever you're rappelling on windows, you never want to rappel straight on the window like this. This rappel line will give you away to anybody who's actually on the window looking at you rappel. If they see the rappel line, they might hop out and look straight down because they know that you're right here. Instead, you always want to rappel on the side of windows and shoot them open like this. Not only do you not expose yourself to anybody on the window when you do this, but it'll be much harder for them to pinpoint exactly where on the wall you are, and because they can't see your line, you might be able to go above the window and go on the other side without them knowing. My next tip is actually pretty map specific, and that is that you never really want to go to the basement of Chalet when you're picking your bomb choice. The 2 tertiary sites, that being bar gaming and kitchen dining, are actually way better bomb sites and more defender sided for that matter than the basement is. The only way that you can play the basement and it makes sense is if you have an Azami. So if Azami is banned, I would honestly learn bar and learn kitchen and learn how to set those sites up, because chances are if you don't know how to defend it, the attackers don't know how to attack it. So you'll actually have a lot better of a time if you go these bomb sites than the basement, which usually is actually won by attackers. Next up, I'm going to teach you how to one-hit barricades. If you want to hit a barricade, you have to do it from pretty far away so that you get the most amount of barricade per hit. Kind of like this. That was a pretty big portion of the barricade, and all you have to do to be able to one-hit it is shoot open the top and bottom portion like that and vault through. If you do it quick enough, it's actually quicker than meleeing it once, twice, and then 3 times. So once you get good at it, it kind of makes sense to do it over just doing it normally. Now that we're on bank though, I need to show you this tip with a Rooney. If you put in a Rooney gate on a hatch just like this, and you're able to play below the hatch, if you stand on the desk like this, the Rooney gate will deactivate. As you can hear, there's no noise when I crouch. As you can hear, there's no noise, but if I were to get off the desk here, you can hear that light buzzing. That's my Aruna gate, and if I get on the desk, it goes away. So if they try to put a thermite or any Hibanas on the hatch, all you have to do is like slightly walk away, and it goes back on, and it'll kill anything on the hatch. Next up, if you're ever trying to turbo trick a wall, and you don't know when it's going to expire, and you're going to need to throw another one, just know that each turbo canister lasts 12 seconds. So if you throw a turbo canister and you count backwards down from 12, once it hits 0, just throw your other turbo canister and you'll be good. For this next tip, this is with Maestro or any bulletproof camera in the game, but if you literally just look higher as you're placing it, you'll be able to place it very high, which just makes them sort of out of melee range, because if you just look up with your camera, they won't be able to melee it at all, no matter how hard they try. Whereas if it was normal height like this, even if you were looking all the way up, I'd still be able to melee it. So make sure you always put your Maestro cameras just a little bit higher. Next up, we have a game sense tip, and that is to always keep in mind where your teammates are. For one, knowing where they are can tell you where you need to go. If there's an angle that's uncovered on the defense, you know where to go based off of if your teammates are holding it or not. If you're on attack and there's one place that really needs to be held and no one's holding it, now you know where you need to go. But also, if you have teammate outlines off because you hate having to look at enemies through your teammates' outlines, knowing where they are is the difference between you accidentally shooting them when they surprise you or not. The next game sense tip that I have for you is making sure that you're pre-firing more. Most of the time when you play Siege, when you die, you're going to be left over with at least like 50 rounds. So it's okay for you to be pre-firing a lot in your games because you're not going to use all of the ammo anyways. You might as well spray to maybe get a free kill in the round. Bringing it back into the custom games though, did you know that whenever you run, you actually run faster if you switch to your secondary? It's a very, very slight difference, but something to note if you want to get someplace just a little bit faster. Another thing you might not have known is that when Yin Candelas are rolling, you can actually shoot them as they're rolling to stop them from going off completely. This is why they actually added that delay this new season, because they wanted it to make it to where if you fully charge a Yin Candela, there's still a second of it rolling before you can shoot it if you're good enough. Clearly without a crosshair, I'm not, but you get the idea. If you want your aim to be better than mine though, then you need to make sure that you're aiming calmly. Having a really tense hand that's very tight on your mouse can make it to where you have very inaccurate micro adjustments in your aim. If you aim very calmly though, and you're not as stressed with your actual forearm muscles, then aiming with your micro movements is a lot easier and more precise. Now that we're already on bank though, I do want to show you this cool Twitch drone spot. If they're ever playing Mira looking onto the garage wall in the basement of bank, just throw your Twitch drone in this drone hole over here, and then you can easily zap the Mira on the wall, then get the default camera, hop down into vault, and then from here get the second Mira, and you can get both mirrors in the first 30 seconds of the round. I do this every time and it has not failed me yet. If you're the Mira player in question though, then you need to make sure that after you place down your mirrors, you shoot out the little portion of soft wall around your mirrors. This actually makes it a lot easier to see through as you have nothing else obstructing your vision, so you get a more clear picture of what you're looking at for nitro lineups like that. Now that we're already on the basement of bank though, I do want to show you this really cool angle you can get from the back side here. All you have to do is go to the right side of this bomb and you can see all the way into CC through these head holes if you want to. And even crazier angles if you get on top of this desk here. You can look to the left and get an angle onto the door or any one of your Goyos to deny the plant, and they'll never expect your head to be all the way up there. You won't be able to do this strat though if you're in a 1vx clutch scenario, which is why I'm going to teach you how to be better at them. When you're in a 1vx scenario, if you want to win and clutch the round out, you have to stop thinking of it as a 1vx scenario. Instead, you have to think of it as you taking 1v1s over and over and over again, because that's how you clutch up. You isolate one gunfight, then you isolate the next gunfight, then you isolate the next gunfight. At no point should you be in a gunfight with two people at the same time. That is how you lose. Now, we've talked a lot about barricades in this video, so I want to show you how to correctly break a barricade. Instead of breaking the bottom of it like this, that makes a lot of noise, so they're gonna know you're gonna run out and you're just gonna die. Instead, all you have to do is shoot out the bottom little panel here and then melee the little strip of wood left over on the right, just like this, and make sure you melee it twice. Then that makes way less noise and you're still able to do the run out if you want to. Now, some people are saying that this is patched in the new season. As somebody who played in the test server or the pre-release server as well, I do think this is a bug, but if it isn't in the next season, then I guess I'll eat my words. But that's enough of bank tips. I'm gonna actually bring you onto the basement of Clubhouse. Did you know that the moto hatch and the kitchen hatch of Clubhouse are both cade trickable? Well, if you want to cade trick the moto hatch, all you have to do is get on this blue box and then shimmy your way onto these cardboard boxes here. Well, if you want to do it, all you have to do is get on top of this blue box, then shimmy your way onto these cardboard boxes just like this. From here, you can throw a cade claw just like this, which will electrify that hatch, just like that, and then you can pick it up and trick it as you please. The kitchen hatch is much simpler. All you have to do is get on this box, aim your K claw right here at this line, throw it right there, and from here, the hatch will be electrified. Then you can pick it back up and just rinse and repeat. Now that we're here though, there is one cool angle that I do want to show you. If you put a hole slightly higher than your normal rotate, just like that, and then you knife a chair, you can get on top of this table and look at anybody coming down the secret stairs for an easy kill. You can also get this angle if you go to the church wall and look above just like this, allowing you to get free kills that nobody will see coming. Now the last angle I'll show you on this map is actually if you're defending the basement, what you can do is get on this gym hatch and open it. From here, if you prone and look above this wall here, you can clearly see the main stairs just like that. As you can see, those are my bullet holes right there, so if anyone is bottom main, you'll be able to kill them, and this is their point of view. They'll have to shoot this little triangle right here, which is almost impossible to hit, especially because most of them have 1x scopes. Next up is a tip with Lion. As Lion, you don't want to scan for information, but you want to actually scan to make people still once you have that information. When people get Lion scanned, they're gonna sit still. You know that's gonna happen. So you can use this to your advantage by droning somebody out, pinging where they are, and immediately scanning, so that if they move, they get Lion pinged, and if they don't, well, you just drone them so you know where they are anyways, and you can pre-fire them and kill them. Moving it back to bank though, I want to show you a great way that you can get 3 default cameras just from outside this one spawn. For the first default camera, as you can see, you can shoot the one that's over here. I already shot it out of habit before recording this segment, but you get the idea. You can shoot that one. If you go close to this building right here, you can look up through this grate. As you can see, there's our second one right there. And then if you shoot through this window right here, you'll actually see the third one for top square, which you're able to shoot just like that. On a map like Bank, where everything is super long range, one thing that you really need to do when you're holding an angle on defense is to make sure that you're actually backed up off of whatever you're holding. If I were to hold top square like this and jiggle peek it, even when I back up off the wall, they're still going to be able to see my shoulder and my leg. But if I, however, were backed up all the way to like right here, let's say, and I were to jiggle peek that same exact angle, they wouldn't be able to see me when I backed up to the wall, making it a lot safer to peek things from farther away from whatever you're peeking off of. Moving it back to Chalet though, I want to show you a cool spawn peek that you can do from the game's window. You obviously don't want to do this if you're playing inside of bar, but if you're playing basement, the top floor, or kitchen, making sure that you melee the right side of this barricade to where it doesn't break the glass, but still being able to peek through the window, makes it to where if anybody's running through this trail right here out of the helipad spawn, typically, especially if, you know, you're in the basement, they're gonna run straight to the left without even looking at this window, so you can get a free kill just like this to anybody who's running past this path here. Something else you should do as a defender is if they are rushing a lot, which I talked about earlier in my video, you should be sitting on site as much as possible. If you know they're gonna rush and they're gonna hit site hard and fast, roaming isn't gonna do anything, because the whole point of roaming, again, is to waste time. And if they're not spending time roam clearing you and they're spending their very little time rushing the site, roaming will not do anything. So if they're rushing a lot, make sure that you are anchoring. The next thing you need to know about Siege is if you have a turbo canister and you throw it at your feet, there's a few abilities that actually don't work on you anymore. For one, Glaz can't see you in his thermal scope because you're cold, obviously, so you're not going to appear on a thermal scope. And also, Deimos cannot track you when you're inside of your canister, so you can effectively counter both of those operators just by throwing one of these at your feet. Bringing it to the attack, though, one tip that you need to know is if you're going for a plant, you shouldn't always plant in the default spot. Default spots exist so that if you need to go for a plant and there's people in sight, you can plant without having to worry about those people. For instance, if I'm behind the trash can, I don't have to worry about the rotate or blue stairs or main stairs. But if nobody's on site, you might as well plant somewhere else where you don't even need the cover. If no one's in sight, I might as well plant right in front of this breach right here instead, and then walk outside. That way, if they go for a defuse, I can easily see them as they're defusing and not have to peek around a wall if they're trying to ninja defuse. But you'll never have to worry about that as a defender if you're able to utilize sound cues. What do I mean by this? Every single surface that you have in Rainbow Six Siege sounds different depending on what you're walking on. So if I turn up my audio for this example, if I walk around on tarps, it sounds a lot different than if I were to walk on concrete. See how it's more of a deep, bassy sound compared to tarps? They're a little bit lighter. If you memorize every sound cue, whether it be wood, marble, tarps, concrete, whatever it may be, you can know people's exact positioning a lot better. Another thing that you can do to increase your awareness is learning map knowledge. And my biggest tip to do that is to make sure that you just go into custom games of maps randomly to learn callouts. If you look at the bottom of my screen, right here, where it says basement boiler room, obviously I know, hey, this is called boiler. If I go into the hallway, this is called a corridor, but most people call this highway, so I guess it's a bad example. But if I stand in this room, it says laundry room. So now I know if I call out laundry, that means someone is in this room. If I call out washing machines or dryers, I know somebody's here. If I call out supply, I know that's what this room is because it's on my compass. People call this E-box, E standing for electric because this is called electric room. So the more you just go around in custom games looking at the names of rooms, the better you can give and receive callouts in the game. Something else that can help you in game is not focusing on past losses. Whenever you lose a round, a lot of the times you can get killed. Whenever you lose rounds, a lot of the times you'll get tilted and start thinking about the past rounds and what you could have done differently. There's actually zero point to doing that. Just focus on the next round and try to stay level-headed so you don't accidentally make mistakes in the heat of passion. Bringing it to the attack though, one tip that I really need to tell y'all about is to make sure that you're droning every single corner. Let's say that I want to drone into this shower hallway and I want to drone out shower to maybe do a backside push if they're in the basement. Well, if you don't know, a very common corner roamers will sit in is this corner right about here. If you're droning in through the hallway and you just look through the door, check shower like this, you're actually not going to see the person tucked in this corner, which can get you killed a lot. So droning out every single corner when you're droning rooms is crucially important. Speaking of drone tips though, one thing that I need to tell you about, especially if you're solo queuing, is to never trust your teammates when they're droning. A lot of the times your teammates will have the idea to drone you in, which is completely fine. The only issue is that they kind of suck at droning you in sometimes, meaning they won't check corners, they won't check rooms, which can get you killed, and I know has gotten me killed a lot of times in my ranked games. Another aspect of Siege that's really important on the attack is to make sure that you're not just fully mag dumping a barricade when you break it. If you magged up a barricade and immediately reload, somebody on the other side of this barricade can be waiting for you to stop shooting, and then they're just going to swing you, and because you're reloading, you're just going to die. So instead, when you're breaking a barricade, break it with only about half of your magazine, then reload, and then break it again. That way, when it is broken, you still have a bunch of ammo left to use in case somebody does want to swing you. Now, just like you shouldn't be trusting your teammates to drone you in, you really should not be trusting your teammates to hold angles. A lot of times in my ranked games, when I see my teammate holding an angle and then I hold a different angle, I'm like, surely this guy has my back and a random enemy isn't just gonna slip in and kill me from his side of the map that he's holding, right? And then sure enough, that's literally what happens. Your teammate will be holding a room and somehow he just lets two enemies walk in behind him completely unscathed. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen, but it happens literally all of the time. I don't know how, but don't trust your teammates to hold angles. Something else you should never trust your teammates to do is shoot drones, which is why in the prep phase, you should honestly prioritize shooting and killing drones more than anything else. I understand site setup is important, but if you have the option of stopping yourself mid-reinforcement to kill a drone and then going back to reinforce that wall later, I would honestly do that, because if a drone walks by you and you're like, surely my teammates will get it, your teammates won't. A lot of the times, they'll just let the drone walk past them just like you did, so make sure that you go and kill the drone. Speaking of tips with barricades though, one thing that you really should be doing when you're spawn peeking or trying to peek through a window in general is never just shooting the window like this and then peeking it. The glass right here being broken, whether it be partially or completely fully, gives a way to an attacker that I'm spawn peeking here, not only because it makes noise, but because it's easier to see a barricade on the other side with no glass in front of it. So if you want to peek a window without breaking the glass, all you have to do is look at the side of the barricade, shoot 2 bullets into it like this, and then the barricade will break, but the glass won't, making no noise and still putting a little bit of visible protection between you and the enemy. Now, a tip that I can give you, no matter if you're on the attack or the defense, is that whenever you're swinging an angle trying to clear a room or you're trying to quick peek for information, you don't want to just wide swing something. This is due to the fact that when you wide swing, you're exposing yourself to multiple angles at once, and even if you have the aim of somebody like Bolo, being able to flick to multiple targets at once is literally impossible. So when you're trying to clear a room, peek each individual angle that you know exists one at a time. That way you can take one gunfight on at a time if there's multiple people peeking where you're at. So if I know people like to play next to the stressor, they like to play it behind the bomb chassis, or they like to use a rotate here, what I do is I'd go through a mental checklist. Okay, I'm gonna peek these holes. Okay, no one's there. I'm gonna peek this dresser. Okay, no one's there. I'm gonna peek the bomb. Oh, one's there. Pre-fire. Okay, let's check the rotate. No one's there. Let's check the feed holes. No one's there. Okay, now I'm gonna go in instead of just wide swinging the door and hoping that you flick to somebody. Now, we've been talking about a lot of different barricade tips on defense, but one thing I think is really underutilized about barricades is that you can place them literally anywhere on the map, and this will slow down attackers and give information on them when they eventually break the barricade and make a bunch of noise. So if there's an area of the map that you know nobody's going to roam and you know nobody's going to play, you might as well just barricade it off so that it makes noise and it slows them down when they try to push you. Now, the next thing that you should do is actually in your settings. If you go to the controls tab and scroll down to drone deployment, you should be putting it on advanced. If you don't, it essentially puts you on your drone the second you throw it out, which can get you killed if people are waiting for you to get on your drone to then swing you. menu. So make sure you turn on advanced, that way you can throw your drone, have your gun up and bait it, and if no one swings you, then get on your drone. Something else that you should be doing on attack is baiting hatches with your sledgehammer as sledge. A lot of the times defenders will have a pre-placed nitro on the hatch, or they'll just sit with a nitro in their hands below the hatch waiting for your sledgehammer to be pulled out, which does make noise by the way, and then they'll put a nitro on the hatch and blow it up. So as sledge, all you have to do to avoid this is pull out your sledgehammer and back up. This will bait up the nitro cell, and then you can open the hatch whenever you want to. Moving on from sledge, let's talk about a different attacker, which is ace. Something that's pretty underutilized about ace is the fact that as an attacker, you can shoot the second Selma charge on the wall to not have to make a rotate if you just want to make head holes that you can duck under for cover. And then all you have to do to still make that hole is make a hole on the other side, giving you cover for head holes while still allowing you to rotate into the site if you want. The next thing you should be doing on attack is always using an ACOG. You should never ever be using just 1x scopes on attack unless you're running 4:3 aspect ratio, which in my opinion you shouldn't be running. But regardless of that, if you're running 16:10, always be running ACOGs. If defenders have ACOGs and you have a 1x scope, they're going to naturally have an advantage over you, making gunfights a lot harder and angles a lot harder to contest when you're actually shooting people. Speaking of attachments, my next tip actually has to do with the barrel attachments. If you never know what to run on your guns, when in doubt, just run flash hider if you're on PC to control vertical recoil, and if you're on console, run compensator to control the horizontal recoil. Now, the next tip that I have for you is that if you are in a slump gameplay wise, you just haven't been doing good the past few games, honestly, my best piece of advice is to take a break. Taking a break a lot of the times can give you the mental reset that you need to actually start playing better, even if it's just for a day or two. Something else you can do if you're losing a lot, at least when you're doing frontside takes, is to try a backside take. Let's say the bomb is actually CC and cash. If you're pushing rafters, you're pushing plat wall, and nothing's really working, try pushing master. All you have to do really is put some gridlocks on a flank, drone all of this out, and then you pretty much have con control for absolutely free. So doing backside takes honestly can simplify a lot of the attacks for you if frontside takes aren't really working. The next thing you should be doing if you're on attack is whenever you're leaning trying to take a gunfight, don't unlean mid gunfight. As you can see, when I'm leaning and I stay leaning, my crosshair stays in the same place no matter what. But if I were to lean and unlean, my crosshair moves about a half an inch on my screen. This can throw your aim off a lot if you're not prepared for it, making it to where when you swing and you're leaning, just stay leaning the entire gunfight. Don't lean and then unlean mid gunfight. Speaking of leaning, honestly, my next tip is that you should always be leaning. There's no point, especially when you're swinging anything, to not be leaning, as it makes it to where only your head is peeking out instead of your entire head and your body. So when in doubt, you should never really be unleaned ever. You should always be leaning. Now, just like you should be always leaning, you should always have a purpose. Don't ever just be doing nothing. A lot of the times when I spectate people, they're just literally sitting in sight doing nothing, especially my support players. Like I said, when in doubt, just be on cameras. It will help you so much in your game, more than a lot of people will ever know. Now, one thing that you should stop doing, at least in the amount that most people do it, is actually sprinting. Sprinting makes a lot more noise, and you're not honestly saving a lot of time doing it than if you were to just be normally walking. So make sure that you're not sprinting too much and making extra noise when you don't really need to. Let's move it back to an attacking tip though. Speaking... This is, again, another barricade tip, which is pretty funny, but if you want to actually enter barricades a lot more quietly, breaking an entire full barricade makes a lot of sound, which is why you'll see a lot of people melee a barricade like this, melee it a second time, and then now they're able to literally just crouch through it like this without making a bunch of noise and alerting all of the enemies that you're coming through here. Now, just like you can utilize 2-hit barricades on the attack, you can also utilize 2-hit barricades on defense. Let's say, for example, that I have this barricaded, but I purposefully put 2 melees in this barricade just like this. An attacker's gonna see this and think, oh, nice, I can just sneak through this. When in reality, you have 2 Kapkan traps on this side of the barricade waiting for them to walk through this barricade. Because it's 2-hit, they're not gonna be able to see it when they walk through. So they're just gonna walk through and die to your Kapkan traps. Speaking of barricade Kapkan trips, one thing that's cool about barricades when paired up with Kapkans is that normally, from an attacker's perspective, this is what Kapkan traps look like on a doorway. But if you barricade this doorway and then immediately unbarricade it like this sliver of barricade is still left behind that actually covers your Kapkan traps a bit more, so attackers are more likely to walk through them. Speaking of trap operators though, I want to show you a very specific frost mat for workshop on border. If you come to this piece of drywall right here and you melee it in the center, it makes it to where when you put a frost mat in that drywall, it actually completely hides it for whatever reason. And then if you pair that up with a bulletproof camera on this wall, they'll come to melee that bulletproof camera and step right on your frost mat. Speaking of tips on border though, a lot of the times when you're defending the bathroom site of border, people will send a RAM device through this window that creeps all the way on top of the bathroom floor goes through this wall, and then goes on the floor in front of it. So if you want to avoid a lot of this vert, all you have to do is reinforce this archives wall when you play the basement. A lot of the times reinforcing this anyways to protect you when you're inside of archives is nice anyways, so make sure that when you come to bathroom and tellers of border that you reinforce this archives wall. Another defensive tip that you need is that when you're trying to swing people with shotguns to kill them, make sure that you're ADS'd. When you ADS with a shotgun, it makes it a lot more precise with how you can move because your sensitivity is actually slowed down compared to your un-ADS sensitivity, meaning that you'll put more pellets onto the target a lot easier. Also, some shotguns have increased bullet choke when you're ADS'd compared to when they're not ADS'd, making it to where you're literally more accurate when you ADS with your shotgun after this new update that just came out. Something else that happens when you're ADS is that you have a crosshair. So today I'm going to talk about crosshair colors. The best crosshair colors that you should have are either green or purple. These are both colors that are not common in the game, so it's less likely that these two colors will blend in with any environment that you're in. A blue crosshair blends in with a lot of blue walls and blue stairs, and the same can be said for a red or default crosshair. The other colors are just too bright or too dark, making them not viable when spawn peeking or on dark maps, making purple and green just the best two crosshair colors in the game. Speaking of attachment tips though, I want to go into Nox attachments really quickly. One thing that you're supposed to be doing as Nook when you're playing her is making sure that you are stealthy. When you shoot cameras, you pretty much give your position completely away, but if you have a suppressor on one of your guns, that actually doesn't make that the case anymore. Now, I don't recommend running the suppressor on the FMG9 because the recoil is a lot, especially for my PC players, which is why this tip is talking about you putting the suppressor on the deagle. A lot of the times the deagle has a lot of recoil, so you're not going to use it a lot anyways, so having a suppressor on it just to shoot default cams so you don't give away your location is pretty nice in most scenarios. Now, I've been talking a lot about shotguns in these past few tips, so something else you should really note with shotguns is the more you move around, the more the crosshair on your screen expands, meaning that if you're trying to open walls with a shotgun, a lot of the times moving while trying to open these walls makes the holes even bigger, making rotates actually a lot easier to make and run through in a quicker period of time. Now, a secondary gadget I haven't really talked about in this video is a bulletproof camera. A big weakness that bulletproof cameras suffer from is if you shoot them from the sides, they obviously die. But there is a way to prevent this. All you have to do is put it inside of a reinforced wall. Just shotgun open a part of the wall you want to reinforce and then reinforce it. Then go back to the other side and put your bulletproof camera inside of the reinforced wall. This will make it to where people can't actually shoot it from the sides, allowing your bulletproof camera to be a lot safer. Speaking of tips you can do with frost, one thing I think that is pretty heavily underutilized with frost is doubling up frost mats on windows that people can't rappel on. If you put 2 frost mats under this window and somebody hops in, they're not going to be able to shoot both frost mats as they're hopping in, pretty much guaranteeing that you'll get it down under this window. Now that we're on skyscraper though, I do want to show you this really cool angle. To do this angle, come into dragon and shoot open the top portion of this soft wall just like this. This allows you to sit on top of shrine and look at anybody coming in through the terrace door. If you come to the left, you can also see the terrace window, making it pretty easy for you to get anybody that is outside on the balcony from a very far angle away. Let's move back to chalet though, where I'm going to show you this cool cade claw spot to electrify both of these wine walls. All you have to do is go up the west main staircase. Then come into dining, pull out anything that can destroy a table, and shoot open this portion of the table. Then throw your cade claw on the other side of it just like this, and that will electrify both of these walls into wine cellar. If you want to be able to counter cade though, then make sure that you bring Thatcher. One of the best tips that I can give you with Thatcher is to try to space out your EMPs. One thing I see so often is Thatchers will throw their first EMP and then immediately throw their second EMP. This is really, really bad. Instead, you want to throw one EMP, wait 1, 2, and then on the third second, throw your second EMP. This will make it to where if anybody is cade tricking, you completely counter it. Somebody else who can open walls is Maverick. If you want to silently open a barricade as a Maverick, you don't have to shoot it or melee it. All you have to do is get your torch out and literally just blowtorch the barricade like this, which will break the barricade and allow you to just walk in. Moving it back to defense, one thing that I do want to show you is that it is still possible to hide Valkyrie cameras in leaves without the leaves just completely breaking. To do this, all you have to do is find a pot of leaves like this and throw the Valkyrie camera not on top of the leaves, but just behind the actual leaves themselves. That way, no attacker can still see it, but if you get on the camera, you can clearly still see them. Not only can you hide cameras in leaves, but on Chalet, you should really be hiding drones in leaves too. There are plenty of these pots right here all around the map, and if you jump your drone into the leaves, you can hide them in the pots just like this, which is really hidden to the defender eye, but you can clearly still see anywhere you want to. If you want to be able to counter this though, that brings me into my next tip as a defender, which is that you need to constantly be pre-firing common drone spots. If I know people commonly put a drone on owl right here, I'm just going to go around in the prep phase and quickly do this, go around to the pot, quickly do this, make sure there's no drones in here, and then I'll go set up site as I do usually. Just making sure that you're pre-firing common drone spots wherever they may be is really important on the defense. Now earlier we went over a tip for bulletproof cameras. One thing that I don't see being utilized enough is the fact that these bulletproof cameras have an EMP on them. So if you see any electronic gadget, you can zap them with this EMP and disable them like a mute jammer. But you can also do this to enemy players. If there's a Finka or an Iana on their team and you shoot them with an EMP, they won't be able to use their ability for a short amount of time. Speaking of secondary gadgets, I have a tip for you with hard breaching charges. A lot of the times when you put a hard breach charge down on a wall and it explodes, you have to vault through it because it's so high. As you can see, I have to vault through this to be able to get through it, and that's really bad for this gadget. However, you can make these to where you don't have to vault through them and you can just crouch through them. If you pull it out, crouch and look as low as you possibly can, and then put it on the wall like this. This allows me to just crouch through it and walk through it, as opposed to having to vault, which is a lot safer for you. Now, just like you can throw hard breaching charges on a wall to make it specific for you to crouch through it, you can do the exact same thing for H charges. Instead of aiming your H charge in the middle of a wall, actually aim it about a fourth of the way down on the wall, just like this. Now, because the radius of explosion is still pretty huge, you're not going to be able to hit your head on this thing, and you'll be able to crouch through it just like normal. If you want to make it sprinting, all you have to do is put an ace above that, and then now you can sprint and walk through it, making it a lot safer than just a crouching or vaulting one. Another breacher on attack that's really good is Ash, and I want to show you a cool lineup for her on the top floor of Oregon. For this lineup, shoot the ammo crates right here on the armory cabinet. Then use an Ash charge on this armory wall here. And now you get an angle onto anybody in lower attic or using the kids rotate. Another great strat for an attacker is this strat with Osa. If you're ever attacking gym bedroom on Clubhouse and you need a way to cover the CC window from anybody shooting you when you're on highway, just put an Osa shield on this window. Unless they have impact grenades with Aroma right here, which typically they don't because Castle plays here, they're not going to be able to get this Osa shield, and you can play on highway for absolutely free. Moving it back to the defense though, I want to talk about a great Cade Claw you can use for the bathroom wall on the basement of Skyscraper. To do this, just come in the minibar, prone right here, and shoot this yellow pillow under the couch. Then throw your Cade Claw under the couch just like this, and as you can see, both of these walls are electrified. If you're ever playing the top floor in karaoke though, and you want a Cade Claw for the geisha wall here, all you have to do is come downstairs and throw a Cade Claw directly below it just like this. And as you can see, the wall is electrified. Bringing it back to attacking tips, I want to talk about this tip for Buck, and that is to avoid using your shotgun for kills whenever you can. It is much better to use an AR that does a lot of damage very, very quickly versus a shotgun that does very little damage each hit that you do. As you can see, it did 23 damage to the body. If I aim to the head, it does 23 again pretty consistently, which makes the shotgun pretty terrible for most ranged gunfights. A great tip for the defense though is that when you're placing deployable shields, not only should you never place deployable shields flush with a doorway, but you should never place them flush with a wall. If you place them flush with a wall, you won't actually be able to see the sides of the deployable shield, but if you move the deployable shield just a little bit to the right or to the left, depending on whatever wall is there, you can peek off of both sides of it and peek above it, which just adds more versatility to where you can peek. There are some walls like this specific one though, where it's thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top, allowing you to get crazy pixel peeks even if it is flush with the wall, but for most walls, this will not be the case. But with that out of the way, that is it for today's video. Check out this next video, and I hope we'll see you there.